Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Dean Tinney, aka the Series 7 Guru, joined by our always very special guest, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC, the Test Geek himself, Brian Lee. So if you get a chance, tell us what series exam you're taking and where you're joining us from. We'll take care of some housekeeping. Once we take care of our housekeeping, then we'll get started to answer any questions you may have in the chat for any FINRA NASAA exam. First housekeeping detail. Happy 4th of July. We will not be having a live stream on Tuesday, July 4th. Everybody, I think, will be enjoying themselves and celebrating when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary to dissolve the bonds and having some good food and fellowship, hopefully. So next live stream will be Tuesday, July 11th. We have a replay, not an actual overtime session. Every once in a while, we do an overtime session, a Zoom classroom after these Tuesdays. Not every Tuesday, but most Tuesday. And if you want to check that out, it'll redirect you after this to that replay, and you see if that's something you want to participate in. That's free, and it gives us a little more opportunity to do some board work. It's not white. Well, it is a whiteboard. It's not the old-fashioned version like Brian's, but it's we do some whiteboard work potentially. This live stream is available as a podcast on both YouTube and Spotify. I usually post it the same night. And if you want to listen in your car or on your way wherever somewhere you're working out, it is available as a podcast. My Kaplan Q3 schedule is as follows. I'm teaching 24 July 17th, SIE August 7th, Series 7 August 14th, and a 66 to complete the trifecta. The test taking registration hat trick would be the 66 on the 18th. If you join me for the SIE, the 7 and 66, and you pass all three, I'll give you a nice little tombstone with the dates you attended class and the dates that you passed your exams. Something I'm really, really excited about. Brian and I have collaborated in the past on the 65 podcast. I think we have 6 episodes of that podcast, including the updates to the exams. And I've said to Brian, and he said to me, how can we do some more collaborations? And so we've decided, I hope Erica's on the live stream. She wants some stuff on the Uniform Securities Act. So for people taking 63, 65, and 66, the Geek and the Guru present Thursday, July 13th, 4:30 p.m., a 90-minute class on definitions and registration requirements of persons. Now, remember, persons include the firms as well as the living, breathing human beings, the unnatural persons, natural persons. I'll let Brian tell you what you're going to get as part of that class. Brian?
Yes, we can take 847 pages of legal garbage and put it down nice and neat and beautiful, easy to read, easy to follow, put it in plain people speak so you can actually understand it. It's so much easier when you just consolidate it, turning those mashed potatoes into premium vodka. Got a little cheat sheet for you as well, and a little 12-question person quiz. I think you should have absolutely no problem with the persons on either of those NASAA exams.
Fantastic. So if you're interested in that, I've put the link. Dean Tenney, you go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, go to the classes. On the class thing, you'll see that class there for you. If you'd like to register, and there's a little more complete description there as well for that. And hopefully we'll see you then. We will be doing the drawing tonight. At the end of all our live streams, we always do a drawing. And tonight it'll be a scholarship, free admission to that class. If you're not taking a NASAA exam, well, you can assign that to someone else who in your firm that is taking that exam, or the 63, 65, 66, and you can use it that way as well. So that's what we're drawing for tonight. If you do have a question for us in the live stream, please tell us what exam you're taking, because we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what exam people are taking. And, some of it, there's a lot of overlap, and the depth at which you need to know something, or even if you do need to know something, will depend on the exam. And Brian and I don't get us started off the bat with a rant, but test prep vendors sometimes don't make that distinction. They just chunk everything they have. And whether it's, unique to that exam or not, it shows up across their their content in a way that can be, not helpful. So tell us what exam you're taking. It's okay if you forget. If I miss you, it's not intentional. So just put it back in the chat if I miss you, and I'll hope to circle back and get it sometimes afterwards. If you are joining us from LinkedIn, please let me know. I've been having issues with LinkedIn. We broadcast to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube is the best platform to join us on. But if you're on LinkedIn, if you let us know that you were able to access the live stream from LinkedIn, that would be wonderful, because LinkedIn is now trying to put up a gate a little bit to people doing their stuff there. If you do want to buy some stuff, we have 2 discount codes. We have a Guru 10 discount code for any Kaplan product. And Brian has been kind enough to give us not only access to his content in terms of on the channel, his great practice exams. I'm a big fan, Brian. I just explicated one of those with somebody, her and I, and she passed today. And I was really concerned because she was doing past perfect in Kaplan. I said, listen, we need to really get a real score we can count on. Why don't you and I do the Test Geek exam together? And she passed. So that'll be available as well. So there'll be 2 versions of Brian's fantastic Series 7 practice test. There's one where you can just watch me talk to myself as I do it. And now there's going to be one where you can actually watch a real student try and articulate, what she thinks the answer is. Again, I hope Brian doesn't watch, because every once in a while I go, damn that, Brian, that one's a tough one. But that being said, you can always fast forward that too. She's a great student. She takes longer than I'd like her to come up with the right answer, but who cares, as long as you're coming up with the right answer. Okay, so let's get started, see what we got going on in the comments. Hello, Cynthia. I feel sorry, Cynthia. My tutoring always takes precedence over the free office hours. Cynthia, if you're a student and you sign up for one of our classes, the other thing you have access to is the free office hours that I put there. The next one is tomorrow, Cynthia. That one will not be moved. But if somebody needs tutoring, and to honor that tutoring request where, thing gets paid, I will give up the free office hour to do that. So that's what happened a couple of times, Cynthia. I noticed you've logged into a office hour that is no longer available, so to speak. So, but anyways, we'll be doing that tomorrow. Hope to see you there if you want to join us again. So not only when you get a class, you get free repeats. Do you get a cheat sheet on this next one? A quiz. You also get access to free office hours. Virginia, 66. Woohoo! I think, Kathy, I'm going to see you. Or have I seen you? I think I've seen you. Going to see you. I apologize. I've been working so hard. I mean, I got back-to-back tutorings. I can't figure out, what day it is and what I'm talking about. I try not to book too many, but I'm trying to honor as many requests as I possibly can. 66. Hopefully you guys got our testing and can join us the 13th. So Victoria's test taker in the house. Woo! Now, we don't know why you wouldn't want to believe Brian and I when we tell you about stuff on the test, but sometimes it's good to get confirmation from our victorious test takers who pop in every now and again. And if you have any questions about any of those exams, you can certainly ask her. I think she went 3-0, passed all 3 first time is my going. Nick, Series 7 Thursday in Charlotte. All right. So what are you scoring on practice exams? How you feeling? Are you a crew member? That was Charlotte is, I'm just thinking you might be a crew member because Vanguard's got a huge operation in Charlotte. My favorite Marcel, happy hot day from New Orleans. Tell mom hi. I certainly will. And when you come back, you bought mom and I dinner, and I'm going to buy you dinner next time you're in Las Vegas at Hawthorne. Brian turned me on this little nice place called Hawthorne. I can't recall, Marcel, if you're a smoker. I don't recall if you're a smoker. If you are, nice little smoking spot off the back deck. I really enjoy. Oscar, I saw that. I saw your update yesterday. Woohoo! I love it. I so love it. You deserve that P, as Brian says, that making your mark because you executed a dedicated, a disciplined, and organized study effort. You worked your butt off, and I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. The sad part, Oscar, is that Brian and I come into your life for a reason and the season. And the reason is to help you pass all your exams. And the season is how long it takes you to do that. So, you don't have to leave us. You're welcome to join us every Tuesday night. You don't have to unsubscribe from my channel. But I get a lot of people who say, Dean, I'm out. It's over. So I just posted a tutoring replay of Lauren the night before which I'm not a big fan of. I've also in my tutoring booking page make you now tell me when your test date is, so I don't log into a tutoring session and you're testing tomorrow. But anyways, Lauren, the night before, we wanted to go over she wanted to go over a content outline. I put that up on the channel, but I'm don't like doing that because the Hippocratic Oath is first do no harm. And I'm afraid that we could do something that would, make you go backwards instead of forward. But I was teasing her. We spent the last 6 weeks together. And I said, man, I'm going to miss you. No, I don't miss every tutoring student, but I'm going to miss it. 65. Well, that's the major difference between 65 and 66. I think you definitely need to know about fiscal and monetary policy. You definitely need to be able to distinguish between a depression and a recession. On 1046, I will link to my lecture on economics. And I think it's pretty spot on. But yeah, you definitely need to know it. You want to add anything to that, Brian?
Yeah. As the content outline states, this is the economic and business information section, of which total there's 20. So for the economic and business cycle,
5, 6, what do you think?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say
Okay.
5. I don't think it goes to 7.
Yeah.
But
it's there.
5. Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely there. It's definitely there. Yeah. Mid-80 is great. Mid-80 is great. I would say do the test geek practice test, As I always say, and I'm always very clear with people, all you get for $20, it's about $20, is the PDF of Brian's practice final with his rationale. You give you his rationale, I give you mine. But I think it's $20 well spent if you just want to get another mark of where you're at. Right. All in on Brian, you get his quick notes, which is that exam. Every tier you go up, you get more, but you get the quick notes, and it has some great questions. It's got that cheat sheet that we were talking about, which people find very helpful. And then all in's about $100 and get his videos too. But at least make sure you do his practice test, whether it's on the channel and you watch me hit pause, answer, hit play, or spending $20. The other reason I would suggest you spend the $20, I think I told you, Brian, one thing I recommend with people that have your PDF is to use your practice tests and all your series is what I call a poor man's flashcard. I say, some of Brian's questions are kind of spot on. So what you might want to do is print that and get in a Marco and just get rid of the wrong answers. And then just the night before or morning of or both, just read Brian's questions and his right answers and read his rationales. I think that's worth a couple points at least. Yeah, Oscar deserves it, man. He certainly deserves it. Oh, you guys saw each other? All right. Come on. You mean you guys have relationships outside of this Tuesday live stream? Brian and I always joke because, when it comes to passing your test, I don't think you should be monogamous. I think you should use whatever resources you think are going to help you make your mark, whether it's my free supplement, Brian's paid supplement. I'm a big believer in at least having, if you don't already, a Kaplan Q-Bank as another kind of supplement. I think the best paid supplements are Brian's and a Kaplan Q-Bank. By the way, Brian nor myself think we're a substitute for paid study materials. Right. So don't try, people every once in a while, I just watch your videos. I passed the test. I go, well, you got lucky, my friend, because you need a book, you need a Q-Bank, you need more than that.
Oh my. Did you just read that one you just passed by?
Oh, that hurts, Josh.
Yeah, that hurts.
That hurts. I will link, Josh, at 1349 to my podcast episode. It's called You Failed. Is it over? Spoiler alert, it's not. And what we need to do, Josh, is come up with a plan. Watch that podcast and then send me an email or whatever, and let's talk about what we're going to do differently. I'll defer to Brian after I tell you what I think. I don't believe, Josh, that 70% is a knowledge deficit problem. I think it's some other variable. We don't know what the variable is. It could be several. I usually start by saying, did you change answers, for example? Did you have something happen the night before? I'm dating myself, Josh, but I go back to when there wasn't a 30-day wait period. That's how far back I go. And I used to tell you, Josh, if you got a 70, just pay your money and queue it up again, because who knows, you might get a draw. So we're hoping you get a better draw. We're hoping we find you some points. What do you think, Brian, about those high but not passing scores?
Dean, I think we are absolutely simpatico on all of this. oftentimes that close, multiple times, tells me most likely there's a test taking issue. So I would ask, did you change any answers? The next thing I try to, I'm not a psychologist.
That's good.
There's test anxiety that we can't get away from. It's part of who we are, but don't allow it to take the test for you. Also, one of the things I've been telling people for a long, long time, when you're reading questions, don't read stuff into it. Don't start making up assumptions. Just stay with what they're saying. Connect keywords. Stop overthinking and overanalyzing.
Yeah,
Okay,
I gotta tell you,
I'm done.
I have to.
It's amazing.
You are. We are so simpatico.
Yeah.
I wish we were psychologists, because when I have people who have those issues, I don't know how to respond. I wish I did.
It's difficult.
I had a young lady. There's no reason she should not make her mark tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, really, she has serious test anxiety issues. A healthy amount of fear, I think, is okay, but you can't let it overpower you. And I just said, listen, there's no reason for you to have that. You put in the work. She's got great scores, but she's literally traumatized taking a test. So we're not psychologists. I just read a book, Outsmart Your Brain. I highly recommend it. I will link on 1626. And it's a guy who is kind of into this kind of thing and how to trick yourself, your brain, into not being that kind of person. So I didn't agree with everything he said, just like I don't agree with everything Brian said. But for the most part, like Brian, I'm pretty simpatico to what he had to say. So, all right, let's see if we can find where I'm at now. We did that.
It's difficult, Dean, because we all have some degree of anxiety about tests. I just have never had a lot of anxiety over it. It's not something that I've had to deal with much, so it's hard for me to advise others.
Yeah, I got to say that everybody's different too. That's what's so hard to give advice to people, because their situation is unique in terms of those test anxieties. So, Josh, this is just me. I need to own what my world looks like if I don't pass. And I take about as long as I need to just kind of process, okay, if I don't pass, what does my world look like? Okay, now that I own that, let me get busy making sure it doesn't happen.
Right.
Otherwise, I find that I get distracted as I'm executing my study plan. I keep revisiting that. Oh, my God, if I don't pass. So that's one thing I do. I just kind of try and own what it looks like, if I don't get it done. And then, like I say, it's sad with those high scores. It really hurts because, again, I think that's why most firms, Josh, will stick with you, because almost all the firms I know of know that that's not a score that reflects you didn't put in the work. As Brian said, it's some other issue. It isn't that you're not dedicated and disciplined and organized. It's some other thing. If we could find it, we're looking for it. Sometimes we find it. Sometimes we never find it.
I just worked with a gal tutoring session this afternoon. Mm-hmm. Same exact thing. She got a 72 on the 66. Oh. And she goes, I'm a little concerned about this area, so we worked on it. She knows it. She can recite the stuff. So I said, why is it taking me so long to answer these questions? Yeah. And sometimes they start interjecting things into the question that aren't there. Stop. You know this stuff. Keep it simple. Connect terms.
I got to tell you, Brian, I can't tell you how many times when I'm doing a tutoring session, we're doing practice questions, the person right out of the gate will literally, because I say, you got to talk so I can hear what's going on in your brain housing group. And they will actually say the right answer.
Yep.
And then just drift.
Exactly.
And,
exactly right. Yeah.
So they don't ever reconnect to the answer they just had. So,
Dean, and this is such a relevant point to everyone on this live stream, because so many people have this type of anxiety with tests, no matter what test it is. We all have difficulties and fears that we have to address when taking this test. It's so relevant.
It is. It's particularly, again, Josh, what's really when that 66 is the last dragon to be slayed. And I don't know if you were, got 2-0 and then you ran into the 66, which happens. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I've had one person I work with, and she said it took her 2 times on the SE, 2 times on the 7, 2 times on the 66. It's always better to pass the first time, but I like that she still had that attitude of I'm going to get it,
Right.
Which is the right attitude. So, you're just going to have to pass. I always say, Josh, you're just going to have to pass now another test. It's going to be a test of your resiliency. And when you get this thing done, it is a huge indicator of your future success in our business because it shows that you can respond to rejection and overcome it. Whereas we have a lot of people in our business who never run into any kind of a problem until they do, and they just collapse. They just haven't taken a gut punch before, so they don't know what it feels like. All right, July 11th, and not sure I'm retaining information. Well, Tiara, the way to do that is take a practice test. Take a practice test. I mean, Brian and I, Brian disagrees with how many practice questions he thinks are necessary. I think you should exhaust the Kaplan Q-Bank, but we all agree 7-10 days out, you got to do an intellectual inventory. You got to see where you're at. And so we know, because it's hard to have that. If I were your accountability partner, it's hard to have a discussion with somebody when I don't know what a practice test score is. I just had a guy literally on the channel say, if I pass this test, am I going to pass the test? And I go, well, I don't know. I mean, how many practice tests have you done? What have you been scoring?
Right.
So I would tell you, take a practice test July 11th. So if you think that you've now laid your base knowledge and you're ready, that's when you take that first inventory so we can decide whether remediation is necessary. And I told you, I just changed the channel today, Tiara, to book tutoring, that you have to tell me when your test date is, because I just get, people who are booking tutoring and they're testing tomorrow. Now, good news, some of them just want to chat and, want to get a little rah-rah. And I'm sure I'm the right guy for that, but, I get it. But, the problem is if they do have a problem, there's nothing to be done. We just don't have any time left for remediation. So do that 7-10 days out. There you go. That's the way. That's, got to find those points. Can we discuss debt service coverage ratio? So Cynthia, I would highly recommend that you take a sheet of paper, fold it in half, and on one side, write all the terms associated with GOs, and on the other half, all the terms associated with revenue bonds. And because a big part of the 20 approximate questions on your Series 7 are distinguishing between GOs and revenues. They love to say all the following are true of GOs or except, or all the following are true of revenues or except, which is associated with the revenue. So the first thing is you should definitely know debt service coverage ratio goes to a revenue bond. I don't think, Cynthia, you're going to have to calculate it. I don't think you're going to have to. I was wondering what Brian was doing. That's why I pressed today.
Right.
Hey, Teskey.
I was listening to you.
So you definitely need to know that goes over on the revenue side. I don't think you're going to have to calculate it. Do you, Brian?
No, I actually do a simple calculation for it on my in my class.
Okay.
But you don't have to on the test. You have to know it's a revenue bond.
The other thing, Cynthia, I would say is if it's an open-ended revenue bond, sometimes we have what's called an additional bonds test, where we're not allowed to issue additional bonds unless we meet a predetermined test. A lot of times that one of those tests would be our debt service coverage ratio. And we say, if we're not, at 3-to-1, then we can't issue any more bonds. So, excuse me, that would be open-ended. Did I say open-ended or say closed?
You said open-ended, yeah.
Okay. So that would be what I would know about that. So, I can't imagine going to make you calculate. Now, in terms of muni bond calculations, Cynthia, you should definitely be able to do straight line amortization downward at a muni bond at a premium. You should definitely be able to do tax and tax-free equivalent yields for sure. Baton Rouge, all right, Louisiana.
Baton
Rouge. I love it. Marcel's in New Orleans, but where was I at? I was teaching a class about an hour out of New Orleans. Boy, I just love Louisiana. Cajun cooking is one of my favorite things. Happy Tuesday, Sasha. I'm freaking out because I started taking practice files on Past Perfect. Well, I don't know why you're freaked out if you're getting 80s on Past Perfect. I mean, that's not a problem. Kaplan 64, I don't know when you're testing, but every when you change vendors, your score is always going to drop because you're not used to that test prep vendor's phraseology. I don't think there's any reason to freak out. I would say, doing a couple more, and I'm sure that will come up. Are you memorizing Past Perfect questions? Because, that's a pretty impressive score on a Past Perfect practice test. And I would only be concerned if the drop is because you've seen those past perfect questions so many times that you're like B, D, C, A. But I don't think you're a risk depending on when you're testing. So I wouldn't let it, damage your psyche. I would just, do some more Kaplan questions. What do you think, Brian?
That's exactly what I would have said too. Are you
Yeah.
memorizing? 80 on a pass perfect is a phenomenal score.
Yeah.
So yeah, are you memorizing those? I would take a couple more Kaplan, maybe a Test Geek final. Let's see.
There you go.
Where
When Sasha, to be honest with you, this is our live streams aren't a commercial for the Test Geek, even though sometimes it probably sounds like that. But it does give you a true mark. So that's all we say when I have somebody and we're not sure what their mark is. I say, why don't you do that Test Geek, and at least the mark you get, you can count on. You'll know that is close to what you could expect on the actual exam. So I think both Pass Perfect and Kaplan are good vendors. So I don't think that you have to worry about that. If you've got a Kaplan QBank, a Pass Perfect, think you're fine. I wouldn't panic. I just keep working.
I would also ask us if that was a customized quiz, that's 64, or an actual simulated exam, because those would be.
Brian, I found out something. I found out that Notman, who uses the Kaplan QBank, I couldn't believe this. They didn't buy the version of Kaplan where you can actually do a simulated exam, which I think is huge.
Wow,
Is that crazy? Yeah. I mean, so I got to tell people now. I used to say, well, it doesn't matter. You got Notman because you got the Kaplan QBank, so don't buy the Kaplan QBank. But I think being able to do a simulated exam with a performance tracker, that's worth $60. I might start saying, hey, maybe we should supplement that.
Exactly.
Nick 80s is great. Great. Yeah, I just think it might be just adjusting to the vendor. So I wouldn't let that panic you at this point. I do a couple more Kaplan, Sasha, and I think that'll bounce up just as you get used to phraseology. All test vendors, whoever it is, the guy at Kaplan is a guy named Bill James. He's the Series 7, what we call SME, subject matter expert. And, both Brian and I can confirm he's a little more obtuse than some other folks. And so it might just be his style of question that you're, adjusting to. Well, mediation is different than arbitration. Arbitration, Billy, is adversarial. Mediation is not. And some states require mediation before arbitration. So I would just know that mediation is required by some states before arbitration. I would know mediation is not adversarial, whereas arbitration is. And I would know that a mediator can't then serve as an arbitrator. Makes sense, right? Because I'm going to be mad that you didn't take my mediation, right? So that's why I would know. What, do you add anything to that, Brian?
Not for Series 6, no.
Okay. How do you get Brian's PDF for $20? I think you just go to the website, or you go to Teachable, Brian.
For the PDF, it's the website testgeekexamprep.com.
Okay, there you go. So testgeekexamprep.com, and you can find that for $20. We think it's about $20, and then Guru 20 is
for just the final exam. Yes.
That's right. Let's be clear. I've had people call me, all I got was the practice test. I go, well, that's what we told you we're getting. So I don't know of anything called the code of record, Billy. There's a code of procedure, the COP. I think a good way to remember is the COP. When you do bad things, who might come up? The COP. That's the Department of Enforcement. And that's where who handles trade practice complaints lodged with FINRA. I have no idea what the code of record is. There's the code of procedure, there's the code of arbitration, and there's the code of conduct. I'm not aware of any other code. Are you, Brian?
No, not at all.
There's also the Uniform Practice Code, which standardizes practices within the trading securities industry in the secondary market. So I have no idea, Billy, what code of record is. 66 and done. SIE 66 done. 7 on July 13th. Going to get to be on that. That's kind of weird sequence, Chase. So you did the SIE, you did the bookends, and now you're doing the middle. That's kind of an odd way to go about it, but as long as you accomplish the hat trick, that'll be good, right? I don't think you have an SIE practice test, do you, Brian?
Not on the website. No, I have it with my video course.
Okay. There's lots of SIE practice tests on the channel. I have one that's pretty good. It's the doppelganger of the FINRA. What I did is I took the FINRA practice test, and then I kept the answer sets, but then because a lot of their answers on that are right answers to different questions. And then I just wrote different questions where the answer was something different. So go on there and you'll find, gee, I think I have a Kaplan SIE test. I have mine. I have the FINRA one where you can watch me take the FINRA SIE test. So check that out. Check that out. I think I have a Momentrix SIE. I'm not sure I have a Notman. I think I have a Notman SIE exam as well up there, Tiara. So check it out. Check it out. Oscar so deserves his P, man. He sure deserves that P for sure. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Any tips? I don't know, Dave. What are you getting on practice tips? You got any tips, Brian, for 66?
Practice final remediation. Practice final remediation.
Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. If you're using Kaplan, make sure that you're using that performance tracker to tell you where your weak areas are.
That's exactly right.
So, Josh, I think you said you're taking the 60. You got 270. So I would definitely know what items on the balance sheet are current assets. You should definitely know the cash or things we plan to turn to cash within 12 months. Current liabilities or things that we need to pay within the next 12 months. I will link to my balance sheet lecture in the replay at 3102. And depends on your draw. Depends on your draw. So, Josh, let me just start by saying, I don't know of a draw in which you're not going to get a recognition style question where it's A, current ratio,
Right.
B, quick ratio, C, working capital, D, debt to total capital. And recognition, they say what best describes working capital. You say current assets minus current liabilities. Or they might say current assets minus current liabilities can best be described. So, I would definitely know liquidity on the balance sheet on 65, 66. That would be working capital, current ratio, and the quick ratio asset test. So that means we need to know what quick assets are. That's the current assets minus the current divided by current liabilities. Ratio always means division. So those are liquidity ratio. Not a bad draw. They might actually make you do practical application and do it. They might show you some balance sheet entries, and then you have to pick out of that what would be current and what would be current liabilities and actually do that. And then debt to total capital is about solvency. And you might have to take the bonds. Like I tell you, the company has $50 million in bonds, 40 million in shareholder equity, and you take 50 divided by 90 and tell me what the debt to total cap is. So, the itemized balance sheet, as I told you, can be a little messy. I don't think, Josh, if we were talking about how you missed your mark, I don't think it was balance sheets. Your comments on balance sheet on 65, 66, Brian?
I do have on my YouTube channel that balance sheet for 65, 66 that's free. It doesn't cost.
Well, I'll link to that too. I'll link to both Brian's and mine.
That's the balance sheet. Yeah. Again, with the gal who got to 72 and 66, it's one of the areas we did cover.
Okay.
We did talk about the specific constituents of the current assets, just the same thing you were saying. Yeah. Liquidity ratios, exactly the same thing you were saying.
Yeah. So I'll link to both those, Josh. I'll link to Brian's YouTube video and my YouTube video on the balance sheet so you can get a couple different voices on that. But it's definitely there on the 65 and 66. And so there you go. And Brian, I should tell you again, I've with your permission, I'm actually going to put, because I used it again with a 24 who was struggling, your free one about sellouts and buy-ins.
Buy-ins and sellouts.
I can't tell you how many 24s I share that with in there. Oh, so I think I'm just going to put it in my 24 playlist.
It's funny what drawing little stick figures with arrows going,
Yes. Anyways, we'll link to both the balance sheet lectures on YouTube from myself and Brian. Well, I think BZ, I can't imagine you're going to have any problem. I mean,
looking good. Looking real good.
Yeah. The 63 is a little more of recognition. So we were saying, Sasha, don't memorize questions. But on 63, I think you just definitely got to do as many practice questions as you possibly can. I mean, Kenner, Louisiana. Yeah. I was, there was a country, I think there's a country club in Kenner. I was at a country club, the person teaching. What do principals of member firms review and don't review? Also, what is the requirements for pre-approval of communications? So, Billy, just the nature of your questions makes me think you need to lay some more base knowledge.
It's a
But
great
that being
question for the 24.
yeah, is he taking 24? Are you taking 24, Billy? I don't think he's taking 24. But let's answer. So, 24, that's general securities principle. I call it not pre-approval, but I call it pre-distribution, post-distribution. So you're definitely, all of you should know the definition of retail communication and the definition of correspondence. You're right, 25 or fewer, it's correspondence, and the principal can approve it pre or post-distribution. I have a little video that, again, I'm going to link at 3515.
And it's also Series 7 worthy. And
and
has to be pre-approved. Yes,
that's right. And retail communication is more than 25, and that has to be approved by a principal pre-distribution. Right now, if it's options, it's a registered option principle. So that I'm with Brian. That's testable. And I don't know any exam. I would say it's not. Maybe not the SIE. What do you think? I don't think you need to know that.
No.
Maybe. Billy, well, I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. If I use the wrong gender, I apologize. Welcome to live stream. So, if I mispronounce your name or use your not the right gender that you prefer, I apologize in advance. Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy, Claudia. Yeah, it's got to be something. I mean, I think I'm shocked. I'm sure your broker dealer was shocked. I mean, even think Past Perfect would be shocked. I mean, very rarely does somebody score that kind of score on any of them. STC, Kaplan, Past Perfect. And then again, when I find that, and I don't know, Claudia, I don't know your unique situation, I always think, did they memorize questions and answers? Because that's what I think sometimes that is. I just posted, Jennifer, a couple syndicate questions for the 24 that somebody had things on. And the syndicate questions, in terms of that, I would know the selling group members never are liable for unsold securities. Tell me what exam that you are taking. That would be helpful, because the level that you need to understand syndicate is dependent on what exam you're taking. I would know the manager is responsible for filing with the Committee on Corporate Finance. The manager is the one who breaks syndicate. I would know the components of the spread. Whether it's, muni or corporate. If it's corporate, it's the manager's fee, the underwriting fee, and the concession. If it's muni bonds, it's the manager's fee, the additional takedown, the total takedown. I would know the smallest individual component of the spread is the manager's fee. I would know the largest individual component of the spread is the concession. Now, be careful. Every once in a while, somebody says, Dean, it's not the concession, it's total takedown. I said, please listen. The largest individual component. The total takedown is not an individual component. They say, what's the largest component? That's the total takedown. So without knowing your exam, Jennifer, that's what I would say is probably testable for most folks. Brian, would you add anything to that? Syndicate questions?
Yeah. If it's Series 7, we need to know those breakdowns. Absolutely. Yeah. And you got to be careful with the vocabulary with it.
She's taking 7. I just see in her chat that she's taking.
Okay. Yeah, it's on there. It's definitely there.
Jennifer, there is a question. I will link to my underwriting Muni lecture because the Muni show up more than corporate underwritings on the exam. And they do have a question on the actual exam, Jennifer, where they say your firm was sold X number of bonds.
That's right.
And the selling concession was a 0.5 point.
Yeah.
And then you got to know a 0.5 point is $5. You got to be able to times that by 50,000 and tell me your firm's compensation was $250,000. So that is actually on the Series 7. So
I have one similar to that in my practice final.
There you go. Brian and I, we're really only about helping you pass the test. We don't have any other BS going on. Brian has even less BS than I do, because I'm willing to talk to you about things. I'm willing to talk to you about things that aren't testable. Brian is like a line on the sand. He doesn't cross that line. But that being said, definitely on the test. So I'll link to that syndicate lecture I have for you on the 7th. Yeah, AD banker puts you at risk, Billy. So make sure if you have an AD banker that you supplement either free with the channel or paid with Brian or the Kaplan Q Bank. I do think I worry about folks who are with AD Banker. So, for what it's worth.
Did I ever tell you about the president? Nice man, nice gentleman.
President
nice
of AD?
Of AD Banker approached me and wanted to.
Is he a real person? Is there really Mr. Banker somewhere?
No, his name's not Banker. It's owned by a family in the Midwest. They're nice people and wanted to do a merger with me.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, no, thank
you. I had training consultants. Brian and we're too off the reservation, I think, to get a job at it. Just me teaching, a little bit for Kaplan is about all I can take in terms of a formal relationship. Do I have anybody from LinkedIn? I don't know if our LinkedIn thing is working. I haven't had anybody tell me they're there. I see Facebook. Thanks for joining us from Facebook. I see Facebook. Was so foreign. There you go. Yeah, I'd do it again. Do it. Second attempt 71. That's what we would expect. We would expect, Sasha, that as you get more familiar with the Kaplan jerks, I'm joking, but part of what Kaplan and Past Perfect and test prep vendors are trying to do is stretch your mind and hope it doesn't go back to the same spot. I think they do a little too much of that. But even my friend, the test geek, he's got a couple of mind expanding questions in some of his practice tests where, I can't tell you how many people say, oh, this is wrong. I go, no, read it again. It's not wrong. It's just you're answering the question you thought Brian asked instead of what he actually asked you.
Right.
Do you know how the 10 extra questions are? They're experimental on. They don't get factored into your score at all. So if you get them all right, it doesn't matter. If you get them all wrong, it doesn't matter. So no, there's zero.
You don't know where they are. They're interspersed throughout the test.
That's right. I say one, if you see a question that Brian and I have never discussed, you've never seen it in your manual, you never saw a practice question on it, you say, well, I guess maybe it's one of those experimental questions and, don't burn up brain cells unnecessarily. I'd guess B, assign it to the universe and move on.
Exactly.
Do federally covered advisor reps? This is so important. You have to register a state? No. Listen, I don't know how this is so important to people passing the test. People get so mixed up on this. If I'm an investment advisor rep of a federally covered investment advisor, I lost it. I used some vulgarity and somebody said they liked it in my exam. And what I said is they don't have to do blank. All I have to do is register in a state I have a place of business, period, full stop. If I'm a investment advisor rep of a federally covered advisor, I could have 1,000 people in state B, and not as long as I don't have an office. I was just doing, I told you today with a tutoring session, Brian, I did your practice test with somebody.
Did you?
And Brian's got, I think, when I love, he's got state A and state B and state C, and he's got all these states floating around. At the end of the day, they had an office in 2 states, and that's all they needed. So, Brian?
Yeah, I was just going to say, for the federal IAR, they register with a state administrator. So yes, they register in the state, but only in which the state in which they maintain an office. If they have no office in the state, then they do not register.
Yeah, so
that's just like Dean said, it's that simple.
Yeah, and Brian has that cheat sheet. If you are going to join us, that's part of that 90 minutes about talking about this. And I think Brian does a good job of putting that in plain English, and it's important. You've got to read the question. Whenever you read the question, I think this is so important on NASAA exams. Are they asking about a BD, an agent of a BD? If they're asking about investment advisor, is it federally covered or state? Because then what flows are different answers.
Yeah.
I always joke, nobody wants to be state covered because it's just a pain.
Yeah.
Life is so much easier. He's a federally covered investment advisor, and being an investment advisor representative of a federally covered investment advisor. So I have a couple lectures I would highly recommend, no surprise. One of them is Who's Your Daddy? And that's either the SEC or the state. And it goes into that from both the firm as well as the rep.
Yeah.
And then I also have what I call the Mighty 90. And the Mighty 90 is 90 minutes on the Uniform Securities Act. Took away you got to be careful, Sasha, about that. I know you want to be, don't be that fragile, I guess is what I would say. Don't let it shouldn't. And good news, I don't know when you're testing, but be careful. Guard your psyche. Guard your psyche as you come down the stretch, right? When you're on that back nine, I call it my Hippocratic oath. I tell the person I got testing tomorrow, you shouldn't do anything that makes you go backwards, and I shouldn't do anything that contributes to you going backwards. I do think, Sasha, you can get your confidence level back up. You already got a 71, and I think you'll be knocking those Kaplan ones out of the park like you are past perfect. If you stick with it, rinse and repeat. And again, that would depend on when your test date is. Oh man, that third time is really big time, right? 1 point. Well, I don't know, Ashley, when you joined us, but we did talk about that. We think it's some other variable when somebody misses by 1 point. It's not a knowledge deficit thing. We think it's a testing issue. You as a test taker, or how you're taking the test itself. And we will link to my video. I have 2 for you on the SIE. I have you failed, is it over? And then I have tips, tricks, and memory aids for the SIE. So maybe that will help you with your confidence level. And it simply could be that. Brian, your thoughts? I think we talked about this earlier.
We covered this quite a bit. Yeah. Don't add stuff that's not in the question.
Oh.
Keep it simple. Stay with
it. I had somebody in there. I said, where is that in the question?
Exactly.
What if they meant, Ashley? They don't. So, don't be
when somebody does that, I keep saying, you're making crap up. Stop it. You're just making things up.
You know what's sad about that, Brian? The saddest part is people who are, by the way, some people are very smart, and then they start using their own brain against themselves.
Exactly.
So I told you, I'm going to post that book called Outsmart Your Brain, but listen, the test is hard enough. I've had people, I go, I've had, Brian, people actually make up their own question. They send me a question, and I go, well, where is this? Is this from Test Geek or Kaplan or Past Perfect or STC? They go, well, I made it up. I go, what are you doing? why would you do that?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've Josh had people tell me they didn't get a clean balance sheet, that you had to pick those items out of there. So
and calculate. Okay.
Yeah, Bill, I'm a little worried about some of the questions that you're asking. They're more not, I think, in the broad avenues and highways of the Series 6. So, but I think you told us AD Banker. So, current ratio is current assets divided by current liabilities. Well, that means, you got to go through there. I think, Josh, so what I recommend is think about your own personal balance sheet, because it's testable on 2 levels. I say, Josh, for me to do a really good job for you over time, I need to know a lot about you. The more I know about you, the better I'm going to be determining suitability. And one thing I like to do, Josh, is sit down with my new clients like yourself and do a personal balance sheet. Could you, Josh, tell me about your current assets, cash, or things you plan to turn to cash within the next 12 months? Could you tell me about your long-term fixed assets? That'd be like your house, your car, your retirement plan, things you're not planning on turning to cash. Can you tell me about your current liabilities? Things you need to pay. Could you tell me about your long-term liabilities, your mortgage? And let's establish your net worth. Now, a corporation, that's shareholder equity. And then I say, Josh, one of the important things I need to know as your investment professional is what kind of liquidity are you comfortable with? Let's see what your working capital is right now. Your current assets minus your current liabilities. Your current ratio. I said, Josh, I got some bad news for you, my friend. I just did your current ratio and you got less than 1 to 1. You're going to have a serious liquidity problem. You better get your butt in gear and start making some more money. I'm joking. I wouldn't say that, but right, that current ratio, your quick ratio, you don't have to sell inventory to pay bills. So maybe if you put in that personal perspective, maybe it'll make it a little easier for you to kind of pick these things out of that balance sheet. And then again, like I say, I will post, Josh, both Brian's balance sheet little YouTube lecture as well as mine. I'm not sure I understand. Brian and Dean, do you think it's a good idea to take your exam like the week of? I don't know what that means, really. Do you know what that means, Brian?
Do you think that's a good idea?
I think, Sasha, if I'm understanding you correctly,
yes,
I would reverse engineer your test date from your study plan. So I'd get a test date and then reverse engineer that. Should you practice with your explicated exams? No, I don't think anybody should watch anything on my YouTube channel. I just put it there for my own edification. No, of course I think you should do that. Of course.
Be nice.
Of course. Sasha, I can't tell you, just look, all the video comments that I get from people who say they find that's very helpful. And Sasha, something that I've actually added is just recently, and I did a little poll on it. I now have, when I get permission, people sometimes give me permission, sometimes they don't, to do a live explication. And Sasha told me, people have told me they find that very helpful. So they have, you can watch me and a student tutoring, somebody who's tutoring, do the exam together. And then you get to hear them kind of, what their thoughts are. And then you get to hear me either going, no, I'm joking, or excellent, and walk them through that. So, yeah, I think you should do that. You can't watch all my stuff. I understand I'm using it, but, there's 550 videos. That's like 600 hours of content. But, yeah, at least pick a couple. We said I definitely would do the Test Geek. Good news, Sasha, the Test Geek one should certainly do. Watch me. But I just had Lauren just passed her exam this morning or yesterday morning. And she gave me permission to post her and I doing that Test Geek exam together. So now you can watch either just Dean do Brian's exam, or you can watch her and I do it together. And we are, by the way, Sasha, the reason we did it is because she too was using practice tests where we weren't comfortable with the score. And, we'd go over questions she missed, and I go, man, I don't really think it reflects the exam. As we said, sometimes the test prep vendors, don't reflect the actual exam, unfortunately. I'm going to let Brian have his whiteboard here. I think he's got something to say to you as well. So
yeah, it's exactly right. Right. We repeat this every week. It's a key critical feature part of your study. That last 7 to 10 days, the practice final for evaluation, and then using the performance tracker to identify the weak areas so that you can remediate those. And you can just alternate those one day, and that changes up your study habits. You're not just sitting reading all day. You're not watching videos all day. You're actually taking the exam, working on weak areas, taking the exam, working on weak areas. What Dean and I say, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
I call it the last 10 days.
Yeah, I call it study block. So yeah. Right. I will, Sasha, I will link Brian. I'll link to Brian's too. Both Brian and I have videos about building a study plan.
Yes.
And so I'll link to both our videos on building a study plan and how to execute that. Our recommendations. As we always say, it's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. Right on. That was it. That is indeed the country club. I also did a class about an hour and a half out of New Orleans. But yeah, the Chateau Country Club. That's a great place. People are so hospitable. I mean, just really hospitable people. I thank it, Nick. Thank you so much. Victorious Test Taker. The growth of the channel, we just crossed 2 million views not too long ago. We're coming up on 20,000 subscribers. And Nick, I'll tell you, a big part of that growth has been Victorious Test Takers, and then the referrals from them to the channel. So I appreciate it. Love referrals. Thank you so much. So I really appreciate it. 7, there we go. So 7, I think, Jennifer, we kind of covered that. And I will post, Jennifer, to that Syndicate Underwriting Municipal lecture for you. Accounts receivable, yes. I do play. If you owe me money, Trina, so let's go to the personal balance sheet. You owe me money. Right? Do I have the expectation that you're going to pay me within 12 months? I most certainly do. Right? So maybe you put it in your own personal situation. Accounts receivable are things that people owe you. Accounts payable are things I owe other folks. Right? So, Trina, I'm not joking. In my career, I have been stiffed a couple of times, not got paid. In investment banking, it's more serious because it's, could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in tutoring, it used to be a problem. People would run up a tab with me, and to be honest with you, I get lazy on sending an invoice, and I don't collect, and then, their life changes. And Trina, one thing I love about my booking page is I have 0 receivables. You cannot book a session with me until you pay. I just love that, Trina, as being a business person all my life who had to deal with accounts receivable. I don't have to deal with that anymore. Now, accounts payable are things I owe money, right? And I do plan on paying that. I'm having a cabin built out off the grid, and I'm trying to pay people even quicker than I need to, Trina, because I'm trying to set, the expectation that you do this work for me, that money will be coming to you right away. You're not going to have to worry about me. I'm cutting checks next week. I say, hey, Trina, what's your Venmo? What's your PayPal? And I'll send you the money. So again, I would recommend maybe just thinking of your personal situation. If you can, not all corporate balance sheet entries have a direct analog in a personal balance sheet, but a lot of them do. Brian, he has your 65 teachable course. Woohoo! What do you consider a good score? I'll let Brian answer, but I think it's a pretty strong correlation.
Greater than 70. We like 75-ish. Of course, higher is better.
yeah.
But I like over 70. That puts you in a pretty good spot. Generally over 90% chance of passing.
Yeah. So I know there's corporate trainers and corporate accountability partners and test prep vendors who once you get over 90, would that be great? If as long as it's not memorizing, like Brian said, the higher the better. But both Brian and I think if you're consistently in the 70 range,
right,
routinely, and you're using more than one source, you're in pretty good shape. Well, Ashley, we talked about this. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, you can't be your best if you're having a panic attack. So, as Brian and I said earlier, I don't know what to do that, Ashley. So what I would say, one thing I'm hoping with my person who's testing tomorrow, she too has those kind of issues. And one thing I recommend to her, not being any kind of a person who has any kind of expertise in test anxiety, but I do recommend this for everybody. If you overlearn, hopefully some of that overlearning will take care of some of that anxiety and some of those confidence issues. So, if you're overlearn, you feel prepared. Now, if you're scoring 90s, you got a 69. Wow. I would think probably, particularly if it's Kaplan, I don't know what your QBank usage rate was, but I would think it's more of the latter, the panic attack, than having memorized Kaplan questions. A combination, sign up for the live stream. A combination, do you feel like showing her a combination on the whiteboard, Brian? Or
well, how about you? It's 5:56.
Yeah. So let me just, you're having trouble with the T? Are we going to do it for her, Brian?
Oh, okay. I can write it up real quick.
Okay,
it's
so
a straddle with different strike.
That's exactly right. So let's go long, one apple, December.
50, call.
There you go.
4 long, 1 XYZ 55 puts at 1. So we got both types and different strike prices. It's the only difference between a straddle and a combination, right? Is the different strike prices.
Yeah.
Long, we're looking for volatility in either direction.
You could fire up your T for her.
Yep.
So there's our T, right? Money out, money in.
Out 4, out 1.
Helen, I would tell you there's 4 things. There's 4 things that you got to be able to do on a straddle combination. Number 1 is, can you identify it? Number 2, can you calculate the break evens? So it's no different than a straddle. You're out 5. So you need 5 up. Or are you changing it now? Okay.
Well, I was going to, just to make the numbers look better.
Okay. All right. So now you need 6 up or 6 down.
49.
You don't do anything differently than if you just thought it was a straddle, right?
Right.
You're buying non-directional volatilities. Third thing, can you calculate the break? Third thing is, where is it profitable? Where do you need the market price in relationship to this? You need above 56, below 49. We have a great mnemonic for that. And the mnemonic memory aid is SILO, short inside, long outside. And then the fourth and final question is, when do you use it? You buy a long combination when you're expecting volatility. You sell a combination when you're expecting a trading range. So those are the 4 things. Can you identify it? Can you calculate the break evens? Can you determine where it's profitable? When do you use it? I will link to my video on advanced option strategies for you, and it includes a combination in there. So I will link to that for you, that lecture. By the way, one more other thing, Helen, you should all know on the channel, you go to the channel and look at the video playlist. And the reason you should not do that is because there's over 500 videos, and it's like finding a needle in a haystack. If you go to the search bar on the channel and you put in combination, what will come up is every content I have on the channel with a combination. Some of them are people who, like you, have asked me to work one for them, and I've done it in a video fashion in 5, 10, 15 minutes. So go to the channel, search bar, combination, and that will come up, all the videos that have something about combinations in it. All right, we're getting ready for the drawing. Low 70s. I think that's fine. That's why I learned before try. Brian watched your course about 8 times. Woo-hoo! Congratulations, Mike. Right on. Yeah, there you go. Everybody has their favorite. Oh, I'm so glad to see somebody from LinkedIn. Thank you, Nigel. Thank you so much. I'm glad to know that that's working. Somebody watch my Who's Your Daddy lecture. Used to have content. Okay, looks like I use an acronym cap. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I got Brian on this. He's out there on the island. Sorry, bro. I was doing pretty good. That's the first time I left you out there. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you go. So, but none of the finals. We'll try one, Sasha. See what you think. Try one. Yeah, Erica, I didn't answer the question because it wasn't really test related and I'm pretty busy. I did answer your questions that were test related. I think the last email I didn't answer was me to comment on some other test prep vendors. That's why I didn't comment. I think you are in the office hour tomorrow and we can go over anything you got there and more than happy to talk about that.
I like this question. I like it.
You do?
Yeah.
One of the questions I got was the RR and customer open a joint account together. Customer deposits 150, 500 after 3 years that we draw. It's proportionate capital. That's interesting. Right. Series 7. So we'd have to figure out what the proportion was.
Looks like he's got 25%.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, right? So 25. So I haven't. That's the first I've seen somebody had to actually do math on it.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's usually proportionate capital principal approval. Take for sure, Sasha. I wouldn't even, to be honest with you, I'm not sure if I would do it 2.5 weeks out. I tell people to use Brian's as their final mark.
Right.
So when they buy it, I tell them take that PDF and put that in your chest or your drawer or something, and then use it.
So within that 7 to 10 day frame, anywhere towards the end of that 10-day frame.
Muni bonds. I'm going to link Crystal to Muni Bonds. I'll link to my Muni Bond. I have lots of Muni Bond lectures. And I will link to one for you. Okay, we got to get on to the drawing. So, yeah, check out the rest of the videos for sure. Okay, so now I got to figure out how to go get our giveaway tool. What do you want to do, Brian? I probably should do something for our class we're offering. Erica, I don't know if you were here, Erica. We're doing a NASA exam. Yeah, Brian?
Persons.
So, Erica, we have added to the schedule so if you want to participate in the drawing for free admission to that class, you can do so. Let me go get my shared screen. Okay, let me put
there
that.
You go.
Is it showing up a hole? Let me make it.
Yep. There it is.
So let me get rid of Cynthia's comment or Crystal's comment. And remember, if you win, you have to, tell Brian or give me an email within, 1 hour, I think it is. Where is my email address? There we go. All right. So entries in, persons. This is for a drawing for the 90-minute Geek Guru class on definitions and registrations of persons. If you are the winner, then you need to claim your prize by sending me an email within an hour. It doesn't have to be an hour, but I don't want to hear from you like next week that, you won and I have to do that. All right. Are we ready? Ready, Freddie? Here we go. Listen, I tell you every week, everybody, our regulars know it doesn't matter how many times you put persons in there. The giveaway tool only picks up on the first time you put it in there. All right, here we go.
Drum roll, please. Slow.
Oh, look at that, man. All right, Crystal. Woo. All right, well, that concludes today's live stream Q&A. It will be available as a podcast. And like I say, thank you so much for participating. Remember, July 4th, we will not be here. We'll be like you, celebrating fun and fellowship with family or whoever, whatever you want to do there. The channel, though, is like Denny's. It's always open and serving 24/7. So remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And Brian?
How do you keep it simple? Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right.
Take
See you,
care.
everybody. July
Bye-bye.
11th.